Hey guys, it's Vince. Today in this video we're going to be taking another look at an unfortunate custom-built CNC controller failure. Actually, the story behind this is I had a past client who wanted to get involved in servos, searching online to see if he could find someone that would actually provide a commercial-based servo system used. He ended up finding this person listed on eBay that was listed under a new. And when he actually found it, of course, he contacted me. Have you ever seen this seller before? Do you know anything about this? What do you think of these systems? I want to schedule a consultation. Well, we've done business in the past. We scheduled a consultation, and after we went over what I'm seeing, I wanted to cover this with you because this is really interesting. And again, I'm getting more and more questions on commercial type servo systems. When I say commercial type servo systems, I'm not talking about ClearPath. I'm not talking about, Gecko's, series of servo drives. I'm talking more like 750 watt monster servo drives that we see here. Now, first and foremost, I did block out all of the seller's listing information, the seller himself, his location, all of that's gone. What I do want you to pay close attention to, though, is this ridiculous price on top of the feedback. And now I tell you guys to do your due diligence, and I'm going to show you exactly why. Let's delve into some of the pictures that we see here. And the first thing I want to point out is that we see a VFD here actually mounted inside the controller. We do not see any type of EMI formatting, and of course he's using a Centroid Acorn controller, which is typically run on 5 volts. Okay, and EMI to be present in this system is just amazingly impossible for it not to be at the size spindle he's incorporating with the system. Now, I know many of you are going to say, what kind of system are we looking at? Well, I actually snapshotted the actual system he's selling in terms of his description, and he's using a 6 kilowatt spindle, guys. That's 6,000 watts. So I want you really to think about the EMI that's present in standard systems that we see every day, usually no more than 3 kilowatts I see. The EMI is still massive. Imagine 6,000 watts as far as that VFD. And if we look here and we zoom in, first of all, for $12,500, we see a lot of crimp connections going on here. We also don't see any grounding coming off this cable, which again is going to his motor, which is identified right here. We do see these 750 watt servo drives, and what's really interesting, if we review this, and I see this done a lot, he's actually wanting this system to control an Avid type CNC router. Now, I don't know how much your experience is with a router, but to run NEMA 34s at 750 watts is literally massive, massive overkill. I mean, it's certainly not required. And again, the performance limitation you're always going to have is going to be the acceleration versus the accuracy. Regardless of, strapping the largest motor in a car, if the chassis can't handle it, it's really irrelevant. So on top of these build capacity issues that we see here, where again we have the VFD mounted within the exact range of the Centroid Acorn, we also look down here, and the other thing that's really apparent, now it may be present, I'm just going by what I see here like many of you, and I hope you guys are doing your homework, is that there's no cooling here. Okay, nothing at all. So again, that's another thing that gets me really concerned. I do see a ground bus back here, but I'm not exactly certain of what's going on. I don't know if these connectors right here or any of them, these crimp terminals, are actually double connected, meaning that 2 ring terminals are going to 1 connector, which again, that's a definite no-no. But what we see here is a definitive problem when you use small voltage type controllers, whether they're Ethernet, USB, whatever that controller may be. And I know the Centroid is considered one of the most stable due to the fact that it's Ethernet based. The thing to consider is this is a massive VFD, and in proximity to this controller, it's inevitable that you will have EMI. Now, you're not going to just take my word for it, and I certainly don't want that. What I've got is something that I really love, and that is when someone does a video who isn't me and shows that he's using a much, much smaller VFD hooked to an oscilloscope showing EMI problems in presence of the Centroid Acorn. So again, identifying and really corroborating what I'm saying here and letting you guys be aware of. We see another system that this person built. Again, all in the same listing. I'm just zooming in here. We look at these cables. Nothing here is shielded, guys. For $12,500 on that one controller. I have no idea what this controller is in terms of price, but I can tell you right now, I'm not seeing $12,500. Many of you are not seeing that either. I've never built a system that was that expensive myself, I'm being totally honest, and what I'm seeing here is pretty atrocious. I do like that I see grounds coming in, it appears from the motor cables or either his encoders. I'm not exactly certain, encoder might be up here, but what we're looking at over here in terms of proximity, once again, to the Acorn, this system actually looks a lot better in that the VFD is not at least in the controller itself. So again, we have some distance from the Centroid Acorn. That is a definitive possibility of more stability. Again, to run 750-watt servo drives that are typically going to be seen in commercial industrial automation, more on, you know, much larger scale machines, there's really no benefit to it. And that's one of the questions I get asked a lot. Why don't you sell these type of drives, man? And the big thing is there's no real reason for it. You know, the technology is great if you have applications that require it, but many of you guys out there have already figured out we can't all be wrong in the sense of what's being seen on YouTube. And I tell you guys to be careful all the time, but when you look at what's being typically used for civilian-based small business type applications, you're not seeing these type of servo drives because they're just not required. So again, why pay for more than you need other than to say that I've got 750-watt servo drives, which apparently this seller feels he's making it, you know, more of a selling point to be bragging rather than really understanding what's going on. Let's go on to another system. And this one's interesting as well because, you know, we know that this one is built in correctly, definitely with that. And then we look at this system, so we see it's not an isolated case. But I will be honest, if we look close, you can definitely see that that's an EMI filter right there. Now, the other thing I want you to pay close attention to, look at the actual proximity of everything in this case. Many of you guys already realize this case is far too small for this amount of electronics, especially without proper airflow. Even if you have fans in this case, do you have enough airflow to actually control it and really mitigate ambient temperatures to where they need to be? Guys, I'm going to tell you truthfully, the proximity on this at the rating that he's running, the EMI filter there does seem kind of small. I don't know how efficient it is, but I would be very careful on anything using an ATC spindle at 6,000 watts. Now, it's really cool. He's trying to offer the ATC spindle with the system, but once again, the reason that you won't see guys going this route, or even manufacturers like Avid, who actually sells controllers, is typically this is absolutely unrequired for what you guys are trying to do in small business applications. To spend $12,000 in excess of on a controller that you can already see problems with, it gets really hairy. And when I say problems, we see some build issues, but let's delve deeper into that. And this is what I did with my client. I wanted to actually cover what we were looking at because he was concerned about a couple things, and we're going to discuss them right here. Inside his actual listing on eBay, and this is interesting because I get this brought up a lot, you know, how do I pay? What do I deal with? I always deal with PayPal because I feel we both have a level of protection. My buyers have protection, and of course the seller has protection. In this particular instance, this seller has written in his description, payment by check or wire transfer prior to shipping at $5,000 deposit and order balance prior to shipping after virtual runoff via Zoom or TeamViewer, in-person pickup, payment available. Payment must be cleared, of course, prior to pickup or shipping, no exceptions. Now, guys, if you're buying something with check or wire transfer, there's really no point in buying on eBay because you're really not getting any protection from it. And that's the whole point I'm saying. And actually, it would be no different than if you were purchasing from China. So when he brought that to my attention, and he actually brought that to my attention because I didn't read the listing fully, I just checked out some of the pictures at first, I was shocked because that's not typically seen. So we delved a little deeper. We said, okay, and I'm like looking at this, and of course we seen the feedback was slightly adjusted. So again, he came in and he sent me this, and this was in the past month on the account. Now on his account, of course, he does sell different systems on his account, and it was really interesting to me to see that he had a bad review within the last month, and the feedback, it said no review would have been a good review. It was the worst buyer experience I've had in 20 years on eBay. After seller receiving the money, all communication shut down and he called me names. Seller doesn't deserve a star at all. Now, this is in the past month on a $7,750 purchase. Guys, be careful. And that's all I'm going to say. Now, to prove my point even more, especially dealing, because I get told this a lot, we're talking about the Centroid, and it is using Ethernet. Now, whether you're using a Centroid, which I'm not a fan of, or the Ethernet Smooth Stepper, or PLCM, E1B, or PLCM, E3, or whatever Ethernet controller you're using, the misconception in the market is that Ethernet is bulletproof in terms of EMI under all circumstances. Now, that is majoritarily true in the sense that it is a much more stable signal platform than dealing with USB. The issue arises where we're dealing with such close proximity, especially with something that powerful that's producing that or drawing that many amps with a spindle and a VFD of that power, you are going to, under even the best circumstances, generate noise. Once again, I have proof here, we're going to look at it, of an individual. This video is from 2019. It's a Techno ISO lathe retrofit using Centroid Acorn, Part 3, EMI problems with VFD, and he's covering what he's seeing on an oscilloscope. So I've already got the video queued up at this point. What I like about this is unbiased. I found this, and again, any of you can find this. This information is online. Check it out. Let's see what he says.
Now, one of the things I'm concerned about is this cable. This is the standard cable that the Techno ISO lathe came with. It's unshielded, which is concerning to me. These VFDs, the way they chop up the energy, can really cause some EMI. And I got it hooked up to an oscilloscope right here. And I have a 10x probe, so I'm looking at 4 bars at 0.2, so I'm looking at almost a volt of EMI, putting the probe right there by the wires. That I don't like a whole lot. So,
now I want you guys to think in relative terms, because again, you don't need to be engineers to understand this. Let's just break it down logically. This is a tiny VFD he's using, okay? It's not near as large as what we're talking about in those systems. In the presence of the proximity of what we're talking about with what I just showed in one system, and I get that told to me a lot, you know, maybe it's only one system that is not built correctly, in that maybe it was a learning curve, whatever it may be. I want you guys to keep in mind that none of these wires here are shielded. We know that. This cable may be, but we really can't tell. And truth be told, the proximity to the actual Centroid is ridiculously close, and we're running an enormous amount of power. If he's seeing a volt of EMI, imagine what you're going to see extrapolated from a system like this. Okay, imagine that. And I really want you to think about your stability. I want you to think about your investment, because again, one of the big things I brought up with the client is, at that price point, regardless of the drives he's using, the system really should have been built all the way to the nines. So what we're looking at here, again, just reviewing this, in terms of looking at what we're seeing here with this video, you already know you're obviously got potential problems, and I mean serious ones, especially at that price.
I think I'm going to go ahead and swap out this three-phase cable for a shielded one. That should give me a little bit more immunity from EMI, especially as I run signal wires through this hole into the other side. I don't want any interference there. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, And then in my next installment, I'll show you hooking up the Technic motors. I actually did.
Okay, so I think I've made my point, and again, I'm just telling you guys, be careful. Really be careful. I'm glad I did this consultation. The client was very happy, and again, at that price point, I cannot emphasize it enough. You guys really got to do your homework, especially, thankfully, I should say, that eBay does track history of sales, does track not just pictures, but again, whether the client was happy or not. In this particular instance, there's just a lot of weird red flags that are popping up. When I seen the pictures, of course, that's the red flag. When, of course, I seen this price point, we know that's crazy. I mean, I could tell you right now, this system right here, we've got an HY VFD in here, and again, 3-axis system, nothing special, and for $12,500, I mean, something here is wrong. I don't care if it has an ATC spindle. If the build quality of the controller is not right, guys, the rest of the controller does not matter. Okay, and again, doing a team viewer with a client, I get asked that a lot too. I send videos to my clients and my systems when they're done and built, and I show them everything is functioning. I just do that in best practice. He's probably feeling he's doing that as well. The only issue is that with automation, just because you have motion at a certain point in time does not mean that the system is functional, meaning that it's going to be stable over the long term. That's where things can get hairy. A lot of clients, like China, will show you guys, hey, look at our controllers, they're working great with our systems. And the unfortunate part is that, yeah, it looks like it's producing motion and everything is working to a novice. When they get the system in-house and they find out that they're having problems because they can't have a stable system or it's doing random things, that's when they find out about EMI penetration. They find out about best build practices. They typically find my channel by doing a Google search, and then we go down that rabbit hole. So again, rather than having to pay for corrective action, just be careful, guys. Ask the right questions, do your right homework, check your feedback. In this particular instance, once again, at least this seller was selling on eBay so that you can look back at the history. And again, it's not a one-off proposal in terms of what he was building. He feels he's doing the right thing by doing this and converting retrofits on systems because, again, he sees a large amount of profit to be made. I get it. But the thing is, if it's not being done properly and not providing the most stable system possible, I'm telling you guys, you're going to have problems in the long run. And again, when we read things like this, I don't know where to go with that. I mean, again, you guys look at this. This was in the past month. It wasn't even something from a year ago, 2 years ago. This happened last month. So be careful. Watch your investments. You see here the price point. eBay did their job as far as I'm concerned. That is exactly what we hope for, that you guys can have all the cross-referencing to go through and be smart with your money. We all work too hard for it to make a mistake, and unfortunately, if you pay someone the way that he recommends here, and I cannot emphasize that enough, if you pay by a check, you're going to be protected by your bank to a certain degree. Be careful. That's a lot of money to make a deposit with. The wire transfer, you guys, you will not be protected. So keep that in mind. The money is basically fire and forget. A $5,000 deposit to purchase parts, I mean, I'll be honest with you, most of that system is worth about $5,000. Okay, so I agree that is about right as far as his dollar investment. Labor, I don't see $7,500 really, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know exactly what you guys think, but I really do look forward to hearing about what you guys think in the comments. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that my past client actually dodged a bullet. I hope he finds the system he's looking for. And again, if you guys do have questions, require quotes or consultations, message me directly at storm2313@gmail.com. You can also message me through my eBay store. You'll see links in the beginning of the video and at the end. Please be careful. Thank you all for your support. Take care.